So we are going live on YouTube now in 5 seconds. We are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Learnability Socratic Dialogue. So today we celebrate 11 years of Sciensation. So what started off as an accident 11 years back, today comes back to you with a very new format. And what's exciting today, we have 4 parents with us. We have 4 visionary parents with us who have come forward and said, I would like to inspire my child by going through the grind myself, by preparing myself, by participating and seeing the joy of Socratic dialogue firsthand. So we have 2 teachers, 2 student interns, 4 students, and 4 parents, and 5 wonderful judges with us today. So on that note, I think we'll go ahead with the introductions of the participants and the jury members, and then move into the program. So Team De Bono, would you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi everyone, my name is Satya. I'm in grade 7 and I'm part of Team De Bono.
Hi, this is Karthik. I'm in grade 9 and I'm in Team De Bono.
Hi, I'm Stuti. I'm in Team De Bono and I'm a parent.
Yeah, thank you, Team De Bono. Yeah, Team Socrates, over to you.
Yeah, my name is Palash. I'm a deep thought teacher and I'm in Team Socrates.
You're on mute, Ms. Rekha. Ms. Rekha, you're on mute. Please unmute yourself, Ms. Rekha.
I'm Rekha. I'm a homemaker and I'm a part of Team Socrates.
Yeah, Achintya, could you introduce yourself? Yeah. Achintya, please unmute yourself. Achintya, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
I am Achintya and I am a kid in 4th F, grade 4th F.
Okay, welcome Achintya. Yeah, now we'd like to request the jurors to go ahead with your introductions if one of you would like to go in first.
Let me go first. Hi, everyone. My name is Arka, and I'll call myself a student of physics and maths. And yeah, so I think the Socratic method is probably the precursor of all of that. So in many ways inspired a lot of our modern philosophy and the underpinnings of it. So yeah, great to be here. Thank you for the invite and looking forward to the session.
Welcome, Mr.
Hey, I'm Anand, and I'm a student, a learner, and an educator. And since everyone mentioned, a few of you mentioned your grades, I think the only grade I can say is that I've completed my 12. So yeah, I'm beyond 12 right now.
Welcome, Mr. Anand.
Shall I go next? This is Vishwanathan, and this is my second time coming in the jury, so I'm very excited. Of course, last time there were no parents. This time it's good to see parents coming in here. Excited about the entire process that Deep Thought goes through.
Welcome, Mr. Vishnathan.
Yeah, so hi all, I am Ravi. So I was also fascinated about maths, physics as a group. Yeah, so because of that fascination and curiosity, I'm doing something okay now, handling product operations for eSamuday. Yeah.
Welcome, Ravi.
Thanks.
Yes, Srinivas Garu, would you want to go ahead with your introduction?
Yeah, this is Srinivas. Basically, I'm an engineer turned as an educator. So, in fact, I have a lot of passion in demonstrating design and then put you all onto workshops. So that's where I'm in touch with our deep thought and the Tarun. So, so let's work together, my dear children. So let us go all the way. Let's make something happen in a making way. So let's do that. This is a wonderful platform we are going to work with, right? Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome, Mr. Srinivas. So in today's Socratic dialogue, our participants are going to share their methods of learning and how they implemented that method of learning to learn something. So it's a learnability Socratic dialogue. So we'll initially give a quick minute to Team De Bono to present their thesis, and then Team Socrates would, ask them some questions around their thesis. So Team De Bono, are you ready for your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, so here's your 60 seconds. Yeah, please go ahead.
So we would explain how I learned cricket. The main method I use to learn cricket is trial and error. In the beginning, I didn't really use a proper method, and I was not having a proper way to play the game, and I was just trying to smash the ball. But later on, subconsciously, I started using trial and error method. So what I would do with trial and error is see what all shots I could play and how I could use them in different situations, which would really help me. And yeah, I would also observe how other people played and try to generate my own shots. So I would also connect the dots if I saw something and I related it to something else, and I would connect the shots and make hybrid and different varieties of shots that I would play, which would help me. So if I was allowed to learn cricket now, then I would go with the same framework of trying to make my own style and generate my own shots. But this time I would also evolve and iterate the shots and not stick to the same shot, which would give me the variety to choose from and play in more situations. I would also use design thinking to generate the shots that I actually require. And I would also use first principles reasoning to break down the shots and understand them better so I could actually play them better and implement them better.
Thank you, Team Dibono, for your presentation. Over to Team Socrates for your questions.
Yes. Yes, Satya, it was really interesting. I would like to ask you whether this process, learning process, help you other than learning cricket. Did it help you in your day-to-day life, or now you are a student, you are school learning, or how you are disciplined as a student? Did it help you in that? I think that.
I would say yes. I did not just use observing, connecting the dots, first principles reasoning, all of these in just only for cricket. I use them in other situations for like my studies or learning something else like music. I think these are like universal processes where you can use them in all situations and use it to learn different things.
To add to it, I mean, trial and error method is used by everyone. I mean, right from a child who starts walking or starts saying something. So trial and error is a part of life, and that is the most suitable for learning and most commonly used.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. If it's most suitable for learning, why do you think that schools or other institutions don't apply this method? Why do they follow a framework for learning or teaching?
I would say it is useful, but it is not the most effective one since you go through a lot of stuff. And in case of, for example, math, using trial and error might not actually help you since it can help you, but it would also take up a lot of time, which schools might not like. So they would stick to a framework which is more effective at making them learn.
You're supposed to learn like the few chapters in the syllabus in this certain year. So wasting up a lot of time and you yourself learning might not be suitable for schools, as Satya said. So they follow a framework which is fast and efficient.
Then how do you stop yourself from going too far? As you said, you don't know what you're doing. You're trying to figure it out as you go. How do you suggest, how do you stop yourself from going too far away from your path? or the objective?
Well, I would say the first step is to understand what is too far, since there are limits for everyone and all of those could vary. And yeah, depending upon that, you can set boundaries and try to stop there, as that would be too far and would not help you.
You you have while learning for cricket, you have certain rules or whatever it is you have to follow. Did you ever try? Maybe Did you ever try to modify that in your learning process to make it easy for you to? I mean, not to change the thing, just for an outcome. Did you modify so that to make it easier for you to learn?
I haven't made the rules easier, but I've done the opposite, which is to make the rules harder. So I can put myself into situations where I'm under pressure and I have to do something else that is not very like conventional, or so that I would stop myself from copying what someone else did and I would do it on my own.
And do you think playing cricket help you to reduce your, mental okay, as a student, you may have less mental stress still, mental stress, or relax, or keep you in a sound health mind than before you learn cricket? Just a comparison. Before you started learning cricket and after you learn cricket or after practicing cricket?
There is a bit of change since I'm first trying out my methods here in cricket. It does help me to choose what methods I use while doing my studies, but except for that, it hasn't really helped me in any way much. And I also have nothing to compare to since I started playing cricket as a very young age. So all of the time I've been playing cricket.
Satya, what are your assumptions going ahead when you try something new for the first time? What do you assume?
Well, I try not to make too many assumptions, since that would get me disheartened if a few of those assumptions aren't true. But I do make a few assumptions on how I think I should play the shot, maybe for it to be more effective. Or I would also assume, depending upon I have to learn this, which method I should use.
Normally, this method involves a lot of commitment because you don't have a teacher or a guide to help you solve the problem. So it is you only who has to go ahead. You have to design your own plan. You have to design your own thought process around the trial that you're going to do. So there are so many. Our BPs, if young children doesn't have, but we at this age, our BPs go up because we don't have anything to rely on. But suddenly, when you get a result, it is an awesome feeling after the method, after the process you follow.
So you should be consistent with the trying, because you come up with your ideas which might be useful. So then you keep on the trying with that, and you need to see which one cracks, which method is suitable and for the environment. I mean the situation you are in, and which is suitable for you.
Then one more. All of you, when you have said, it sounds like this is the best method when you want to learn individually. But what about when I want to learn collectively as a team?
Well, I think so. It could help it make this method more effective, since all of you can try out different things and maybe different varieties. Also, you can try out more things. So in that way, it does make it more effective.
So it's like in a group, yeah, you can explore more than you could have done individually. So once you explore more, you get more and more perspectives. So you build a big picture, and once you get that, everything you build might get efficient. I mean, the things you build might get efficient, and it will get easier because yeah, you're being showered with a lot of perspectives in a group.
According to you, what would you say a learning process should be in a single sentence or a single line? What is a learning process? Just one sentence, or you have to say what I mean, define or something.
I think a learning process is a method that you use that is effective, but also gives you the space to add your own creativity that helps you learn something.
It's like a foundation, so you can build anything you want, however you want.
Okay, so we'll have to close the first round here. It was a very interesting exchange of questions, answers, and perspectives. We request all the jurors to move to the jury room so we could help you with the scoring process. So in the meanwhile, Umang will request the participants to share your reflections. What were the thoughts going on in your mind while you were answering this question? So while the jurors score, we can have a nice round of reflections here. We request all the jurors to move to the jury breakout room. You can click on the breakout rooms button at the bottom, and you'll get the list of breakout rooms, and you can click on join next to
jury discussion 1 room, Tarun?
Jury discussion 1, absolutely.
Okay, right, thanks.
Yeah, so you can click on the breakout rooms button. You'll see 4 squares there. So once you click there, you'll get the list of breakout rooms. You can click on join button right next to jury room 1. Yeah, Umang, in the meanwhile, you can request the participants to share their reflections. So Srinivas Garu, yeah, I think, yeah, he found it, I guess. Yeah, you guys can, we'd love to hear your reflections of what are the thoughts which are going on in your mind while you were asking these questions or while you were answering these questions. So.
Yes. Anybody from the answer box, if they have developed something and if they have built upon their knowledge, would like to reflect?
Well, it's not a reflection, but it's like a remark, something that I noticed. All of the questions weren't about the pitch, and that's good because this time, unlike other Socratic dialogues, we didn't get carried away by the pitch. It was about the actual main point, which is the learning process and the method. So that's something that I noticed.
Yes, thank you, Satya. Anybody else would like to go ahead with their reflections? Anybody from the question box? Now the answer box will be the question box, and the question box will be the answer box for the next round. So be prepared for that. And meanwhile, go for the reflection.
May I?
Yes, sure, Mr. Lee.
So, I found that Satya, Karthik, Aryan, they are way ahead of me. I am not able to articulate how they present so nicely. The thought process is so clear for them. And that till that time I was thinking to answer, these two guys were answering. They were ready with the answers, which is really very impressive and amazing. Of course, I need to work a lot on myself, it seems. This is the reflection that I have to study more.
Wow, interesting. Yes. Anybody from the question box, what you have gained, okay? While questioning anything if you have gained, you can go ahead.
I really like their interpretation of how they would choose trial and error as a group activity. How would they go ahead with it? Like even if it was it was a very general remark, but I still think that it gave me an idea that we can use this method, because trial and error, in my opinion, is very fundamental, or the first approach that we take to any problem solving. And if we can do it collectively as a group, it would be easier to come up with solutions.
Okay. Yes. And Karthik, you are still remaining to reflect. So, would you like to reflect, Karthik?
Well, when Palash sir asked how you can use this as a group, I never actually thought about it. So it is like a completely new idea which has been brought up. So I got a completely new insight today, which I've never thought or never tried to think about, and I got way more perspectives on like this experimenting trial and error method. So it helped me to get like I have a bigger picture on experimenting than before.
Yes, I think you have learned a lot, build upon a lot of stuff. Keep it up, Karthik. Thumbs up to you. Yes. And Achintya, our youngest participant, would you like to say something, Achintya?
What's it?
Would you like to share something, Achintya?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Go ahead.
That was a very nice pitch. And your learning process was great. Thanks for sharing it.
Okay. What did you like in that learning process? Would you like to say what did you like, Achintya?
I liked everything.
Liked everything. Okay. Yes. As a co-moderator or as a DT associate, means I'm not participating, but there are some reflections that I too have. Many a times we focus more on results and just forget the process we go through. And results can be subjective, but the process, it is objective to everybody. If somehow we can have grip over the process, I think we can achieve the heights, whatever we wish. We can achieve that heights. Yes. Yes, I think Tarun sir is here. Over to you, Tarun.
Tarun, you're on mute.
Those of you who are joining us live on YouTube, so if you have some questions coming in, you can send them in the chat. We're also going to be picking up questions from the chat. Those of you who are joining us live, you can send in your questions in the chat on YouTube, and we're also picking up some questions from the chat. The first round, I think, is a little slow round. The jury is taking some time to score, but I think as we go forward, we'll gain some pace. So Team Socrates, I think now you'll be going into the answer box, and Team Demono, you'll now be going into the question box. And this will be a little fast-paced round compared to the first one. Yeah. So I thought this was a very interesting discussion, because in general, trial and error is one of the most basic heuristics to, I mean, when you think of learning to learn, trial and error is a very, very basic heuristic. So for something as basic as that, the quality of discussion was fantastic. And I think one moment which I really liked was when Satya was asked, do you try to simplify the rules? And he was like, okay, no, I try to, change the rules in a way that I'm forced to think out of the ordinary, and I have to think of new solutions to learn. I thought that was a very nice sort of heuristic to upgrade the way in which you think and the way in which you learn. So some of the threads were very, very insightful, like this one. And one question which I had and I wished one of the teams asked was, if the schools are not encouraging it because they believe it's not efficient, then why are you doing it? As one question which I thought someone should have asked, but yeah, didn't happen. Maybe in the further round, somebody would ask that question. Yeah. So since the jury is still taking some time, in the meanwhile, would you guys want to repeat your presentation once? Because I think a lot of people have just joined us on YouTube. Would you guys want to go over your presentation once again? So, yeah, Team De Bono.
Okay. So, so the thing that we learned was cricket, and the method that we used it was trial and error. In the beginning, what I tried to do was just to smash the ball, get some runs, but I didn't have a proper method on how to learn the game or how to play it, so it was not really working out. At that time, I started subconsciously using this method called trial and error. I would see other people playing their shots. I tried to play them too. I would analyze how it worked and I would try to implement it. If it didn't work, then I would see how I could make it work. And I would do things like that. So this really helped me, as now I was able to learn cricket in a method which was good. And yeah, but if I had the chance to learn it now, I would go with the same framework of trying to develop my own style, but I would try to do it in a more efficient way this time. Instead of just sticking to the plan, I would evolve it over time and I would get to the best possible shot that I could achieve. And I would also try to make shots for different circumstances. And I would do this using design thinking. I would also use first principle reasoning, as that could help me break down the things and understand how I play the shots better. So I would be able to use them better in different circumstances.
You're on mute, Tarun.
The jurors might be wondering what's going on. I was just saying that once the Socratic dialogue starts, it never stops. So the participants just don't care if the jurors are here or not. They just hear the question, answer. The show goes on. Yeah. So now I think we'll have Team Socrates in the answer box and Team De Bono in the question box. So Team Socrates, are you ready for your 1 minute presentation?
Yeah, we are sending our strongest soldier forward. Achintya, please.
Okay. Yeah, Achintya, please go ahead with your presentation.
Hi everyone. Name is Socrates. Whatever the subject or thing may, our learning way or our learning fundamental will always be the same. That is our belief at Team Socrates. For example, if a piece is in trouble in chess, you need to have a backup and a main plan. The main plan can go wrong, and so you need multiple choices. The same in life. You always need a backup. Anything can go wrong at any moment. And if I have a doubt in chess, I ask my teacher. In the same way, you should also ask questions. You should never stop asking questions. And you have to practice. We have to practice to do everything in life. Be it passing an exam, trying to walk, or learning how to play chess. All of these require practice. Focus and concentration are needed too, in mathematics and in chess. And you also need to do research and analysis. When I lose a game in chess, I analyze and find the mistake and I don't repeat it again. In the same way, we should also find our mistake and we should not repeat it in life. Researching gives us more knowledge. We can use researching in chess to find out tricks. We can research to get more knowledge in life. Thank you.
Wow, Cynthia, you've left us spellbound. So, yeah, I wonder if Team Divono has questions now. Yeah, Team Divono, over to you for questions. Yeah.
Okay. So this is how you learn to test it. If you were given the chance to improve it, then how would you do it?
Satya, could you clarify what did you mean by improve it?
Well, are there any other methods that you think could be useful, but you did not use them, or you wouldn't like to use them?
For learning chess.
Yes.
Okay. Team Socrates, was his question clear?
Achintya, did you understand the question?
Yeah.
All right. Would you like to answer it?
Yes. I think that they are more methods, but this is the one I followed. If I find another method, I'll try to use it if it's convenient.
Okay, Team Divono, do you have a follow-up question to that?
I don't have a follow-up question, but
yeah, sure. You can start a new thread, Karthik. Please go ahead.
You said we always need backups. Can you explain some other situations where we need backups?
Like in real life scenarios, do you want me to give examples?
Yeah.
There are loads, even as something as simple as cooking for guests in your home. If something gets burned, you need to have a backup recipe. Or even when you are traveling from one place to another, if the roads are jammed or there is traffic, you need to change your route basically.
Do you strategize and make your backups, or how do you build your backups, and what do you build your backups on?
In chess or in real life?
Strategically speaking, how do you build a backup strategy if you need something? I mean, if you need a backup strategy.
Achintya, if you didn't understand, you can ask him to explain it in a simpler way.
Okay. I plan backup strategies by observing the position all the time. I see what is going on and I plan accordingly.
Okay. Do you take any references?
And references like, so references, if you're going to Coorg, you take warm clothes. But if it's cold, you also take warm clothes. So I saw that Coorg can also cold. It's on a high place. We're going to hotel on a high place. So I also pack some cold clothes in case it's cold.
Okay. So this brings us to the conclusion of round 2. We request the jurors to move to the jury room so we could score.
One second. I want to suggest him one point just now. Achintya, you see something like, if you run out of the power, then what is your backup plan? You have to connect back to us. It is very important. No, you are in a session, suddenly suppose power go away, then definitely you must have some plan B for the power. So what would be the solution?
If the power goes, I'll try to connect with a different network. If that doesn't work, I'll try joining on another device.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, good thought. So you have an idea. Wonderful. So there is something called UPS. Find it out what it does. Okay.
I think we're slightly behind schedule. So
sure. Yeah, please.
We request all the jurors to move to the jury room, and Umang, you could initiate the reflections among the participants. And after this, I think maybe what we could do is we could invite the other 2 teams here as well, because the semi-final 2 is going to work. You guys can also stay. Maybe we can, so Team Polia, I think you guys are following us on YouTube, and Team Plato, please move to the main room. Team Polia and Team Plato, please move to the main room. Yeah, you can go ahead with your reflections.
Just to be clear, our learning process was taking learnings from one domain and applying it to different other scenarios. So Achintya here, he learned a lot from chess and he applies it in his daily life.
Okay.
So, talking about backups, this was the part I concentrated on because I think it's really true. And I thought after thinking about it, I made a new connection that you always need to build a strategy on something solid, because if that too fails, it's going to be a problem. So whatever you're building a backup strategy, I'm speaking in this case, you need to take a proper reference. For me, I would take a proper reference and build it upon that, so that plan B is like no matter what, it should always work.
Okay. All of you who've been in the, been backstage, any reflections while you were listening to the dialogue so far? We'll be starting the next semi-final in some time, in about 2 to 3 minutes. So until then, we're happy to listen to your reflections while you were listening to these guys here front stage. Any of the backstage participants want to go in? Team Polya or Team Plato? Umang, I request you to rename all the participants so that it's easy to identify. Yeah, anyone wants to go ahead with your reflection while you were listening to them?
I didn't watch the video actually.
So you were preparing. Okay.
So I only remember one part of the video which I watched recently about the backup question which Karthik asked. So I found that quite insightful in the sense that so it was trying to dig into the main process.
Okay. We request everyone to keep your videos on. Yeah, Shubhangi, please go ahead.
I was really amazed how Achintya was answering the questions. And I mean, this pair up, I mean, other parent with other children, that is like really good how they are, teaming up and explaining what they pitched about. So that is really a good teamwork.
Thank you, ma'am.
We made it a point to ensure the parent and the child are not, teamed up together. I mean, you're anyway a team at home every day anyway. Yeah, anyone else wants to share your reflections of the program so far?
It's just an offhand comment, but this is the first time I have seen Satya without questions.
Okay, his team didn't let him ask questions. Okay.
Actually, Achintya made everybody spellbound. It was so lovely to hear from him.
Thanks.
Yeah, anyone else wants to go in with your reflection?
Both, I would say Team Dibono, their which was really interesting, and Satya presented it well, and he answered the questions, and other team members supported him. And our team, I would really I was so happy and to see Achintya performing. Yesterday itself, I came to know how I was really surprised to see an 8-year-old child, but still how he's answering, how he's thinking. And I think today he has added on his own many points. No, sir? Palash, I think how he came up, how he answered. So really well done, Achintya. I'm proud of you. Thank you.
I just want to say it in the open that the pitch that he made, it was all his doing.
Yeah,
we just gave him ideas, but the entire pitch was done by him.
Yeah, that is true.
Then you're on mute again.
We request Team Dibono and Team Socrates to move backstage, and you'll be invited during the time of the final and during the reflection. So we request Team Dibono and Team Socrates to move backstage, and you can follow the program live on YouTube. So now we have Team Plato. Umang, I request you to, we have Team Plato and Team Polya. We'll be having Team Plato in the answer box and Team Polya in the question box. Am I right, Umang?
Yes, yes.
So Team Plato, are you ready with your presentation?
Arun, do we have time for their intros?
Oh yeah. Team Plato, would you want to go ahead with your introductions? Yeah. Aryan, in case you're speaking. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Aryan and I'm in grade 7 and I study in Bombay Scottish School.
I am Sachi. I'm in grade 6 and I study in the Sri Ram Universal School.
Hi, I'm Avanti and I am a teacher. It's great to be here today, listening all the wonderful things. I'm quite amazed at how these children speak and how they think. I hope I'm able to respond to something.
Audio Team Polya.
Could you repeat?
Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Shubhangi. I'm from Team Polya, and I've been there with Deep Thought for more than 6 months, which I feel great about.
My name is Vajra Prasad. I am a learner.
My name is Aaron and I'm in 8th grade and I go to Epistemo Vikas Leadership School.
Thank you, Team Polya. Thank you, Team Plato, for your introductions. So Team Plato, are you ready with your presentation?
Yes.
Okay. You have 60 seconds for your presentation, so please go ahead. Yeah.
So our pitch was about on cooking. So I'll just introduce the topic. So cooking is a vast topic, and if you mostly experience the process yourself, you'll have a lot of fun. Cooking might seem easy, but in reality, it's pretty hard. So we have to focus on a few things that are having a specific goal while learning cooking, being comfortable with the vast topic. 3 is being able to grow with the skill of cooking. The step-by-step approach to learn cooking in deep manner are: first is discover what you would like to learn in cooking. Example, you want to make really tasty food. Why do you want to do that? Then observe any person around you making that dish. Then ask someone cooking about how they made that dish. Define and break cooking into simpler parts. Cooking is basically a combination of art, science, and creativity. Cooking is also the skill of preparing any food item by boiling, mixing, combining, etc. Relate or differentiate cooking's principles from other fields. Like take mathematics for an example. Cooking can relate measuring quantities to ratio. I think that's all we have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Team Plato. Over to Team Polya for your questions. Yeah, Aaron, please go ahead.
My question is, if the person you are trying to teach cooking to thinks it's very hard, how do you motivate them to keep trying?
So what we do is like in the step that observe any person around you who is cooking. So that helps them to kind of acknowledge the kind of in outcome cooking gives, like you get a really tasty dish. So we could empower with the result it gives.
Now, I have another question. How would they find good recipes to use?
So while you are kind of observing a person who is cooking and then asking them like how they made the dish. So while you're asking them, then
You
you
basically get the main ingredients you have to use to make that tasty dish. Suppose if I give an example about a sandwich, you know the items, you ask a person, he tells you the ingredients, you know the items to use. So that's basically how you get to know that.
What if you have multiple people telling the uh, same type of sandwich or cake or whatever they're making?
how does that put an effect?
Yeah, because you told that every person is saying the same recipe. So maybe that person will use the same recipe that everybody is giving. So can you please elaborate? I can't understand.
What I'm saying is that, let's say you ask multiple people for about the same type of sandwich, but how would you know if they give different recipes? How would you know which recipe is the best?
There can be two ways of doing this. The first thing is like, suppose you really love the sandwich your mother makes. Okay, so you will ask your mother about the sandwich recipe. The first thing is this. So this depends on how you approach the thing that you would like to learn. If you know that I want to learn this sandwich recipe that my mother makes, then you can directly ask her or observe how she makes the sandwich. And the other thing is, if you're not really sure, you just want to find out a new good sandwich recipe, then you can try out the recipes and find out which one. Or maybe you can base your choice on the type of ingredients. Like suppose you love tomatoes and you hate onions,
We request you to keep
then you
your
can,
we request you to keep your answer short to keep the spirit of the dialogue going. Yeah.
okay. So yes, then you can base your choice on the ingredients that you like.
I'll have to conclude this round here in the interest of time. We request the jurors to move to the jury room so you could score the round. And Kunal, you may initiate the reflection process here.
Sure. Yes. Anybody from the answer box, if you have built upon the concept, if you like to reflect, you can go ahead.
So what I kind of built upon from the last question was like, while we are trying to go to a particular step-by-step process, so if we have too many options or too much divergence in one step itself, so it's really important to kind of bring our opinion into that, so that we are not too rigid about it, about the steps, and not kind of feel worried.
I want to add something.
Go ahead, Sanji.
Yeah. So for me also the last question was a bit confusing, and like what I learned that basically that my reflection on is you need to have a particular choice that you can make the dish however you want, but the quantity and all needs to be equal. Suppose you like a particular dish, a specific dish that one person makes, so you can just go and ask that person. So I got a bit confused, but yeah, the question was nice.
Okay. Yes. Anybody from the question box? Okay. You are continuously questioning. So, have you gained something while questioning? And yes, Shubhangi, you can go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I had one question. Like the people who do cooking every day, for them to maintain the same kind of interest daily, it's a little bit tricky. So how can we, have that same interest daily to, cook, and that to 3 times? So, is there anything that we can do to have that same interest?
Shubhangi, will have to move to the next round now. So now we have Team Polia in the answer box and Team Plato in the question box. Team Polia, are you ready with your presentation? Yeah, Team Polia, please go ahead.
Okay, so our team is called Polia, and our pitch is that there are many ways to learn, and it keeps changing every time we find new ways to learn anything around the world. Sometimes it's important to reflect and ask ourselves, is there any scope to improve my learning? But while learning a subject that we don't like, it's very hard to understand that subject. But when we make the problem into a challenge, it is much easier to overcome the problem. And self-learning gives us time to think and reflect on ourselves. Self-learning is also not dependent on others. So while we break down concepts and relate them to our experiences in real-world problems, we can make it into a strategy to solve different types of problems. When we see big problems, we can break it down into smaller steps so that we can solve them more easily. And then connecting them with the real-world examples makes it much more relatable. Practice is also the best master, and practice helps us to get better at what we want to do so we can become faster and achieve our goal. Without practice, it's almost impossible to improve ourselves. So to improve one's learning, we can use the Socratic method of learning, which uses critical thinking, which is when we deeply think about what we're thinking about. And the best thing is to see other perspectives and ask to ourselves questions and learn from them.
Thank you for the presentation, Team Polia. Over to you, Team Plato, for your questions.
Yes, so I have a question. How do you kind of develop like that way of practicing every time that particular whatever you're learning? So how do you practice it every time?
When you practice, you start to get better, and once you get better, you self-motivate yourself because like if you're playing football or basketball, you start getting more points, and that motivates you to continue. So that's why. So, and even if you get discouraged, your friends or experts can help you get re-encouraged and get back to practicing.
I have a doubt in this. So first you mentioned about self-learning. So if you're actually if you're depending on your friends to motivate you, then isn't that then violating the self-learning?
Only once you feel discouraged, and then maybe if you tell it to others, then they might motivate you, and that will help you learn by yourself.
Wouldn't that still diverge? Couldn't that still diverge you to the social learning path because you feel comfortable with your friends?
So we are doing self-learning, we also learn from others as well. We can see others' method of doing something, and that can motivate us to practice self-learning, as in we learn it by seeing others. So it's kind of inspiration that we are getting from others. We are learning by ourselves, but it's the inspiration part.
Then how do you ensure that you're only focusing on the inspiration part and not getting comfortable with that way of learning?
No, actually, it is a comfortable zone, but we will do not only inspiration. Inspiration after that we have to learn through self-learning, because self-learning, it is easy to break down our talents and our weak faults, so we can inspire and we can make it break down the problem and we can move it.
Question.
Yes, Anshi, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, like, if you think that you're not able to do that, then if you give up, how would you motivate yourself on your own?
Because my goal is, first of all, I have to inspire. Then I will choose my goal. Then is there any difficulty? I will approach the resources which I have, like the material and the expert or the mentor.
Okay, but what if you completely give up? What would you do then?
What is the purpose of my learning? What is that? What I have to do? What I am learning? What I want to know? Then it will move to that, not to give up. Is there is any reason for that? Then I will give up.
Okay, I'll have to end this round here. We request the jurors to move backstage to complete the scoring process. And Umang, you can initiate the reflections. And after this, we'll only be having the jury round. So we could wrap up the dialogue in the next 10 minutes.
Okay. So anybody from the answer box, okay? While answering, if you have built up something, some concept, you can go ahead with your reflections. Yes, anybody from the answer box?
Yeah. So, like when we are doing self-learning, it's kind of we are practicing by ourselves. But sometimes, I mean, even the thought leader that we talk about, he also gets demotivated sometimes. So there are our family members or friends around us that those keep, inspiring us to do what we do. And as Mr. Vajra Prasad said, like the purpose behind what we are doing is something that really encourages us to do what we do. So that is something beautiful I found. Like this was spontaneous and that was amazing. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Shubhangi. Yes, anybody else from the answer box? Mr. Vajra Prasad or Aaron, would you like to reflect? Yes, if you have gained anything, if you want to share anything, you can go ahead.
Yes, there are different ways of learning. That is that each person has learning in a different way. They are explaining that cooking, just like I think.
Okay. Yes, and while questioning, okay.
Could we request Team De Bono and Team Socrates here?
Team De Bono and Team Socrates. Okay.
So I request the jury members, we are in a kind of a spot here. Team De Bono and Team Socrates are on a tiebreaker. Both of them have scored 23 points for questions and 29 points for answers. See, you can't even separate them. You can't even say, okay, fine, I'll give more weightage to questions. So what we'll do is we'll listen to 5 questions of both the teams and we request you to score their questions on a scale of 10. We request all the jurors to score their questions on a scale of 10 to break the tiebreaker. So Team Debono and Team Socrates, we have a tiebreaker here. Both of you are on 52 points and Team Polia is on 53 points. So Team Polia has safely moved ahead. But Team Debono and Team Socrates, both of them are on 52 points. And Team Plato narrowly missed out at 51 points. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Team Socrates, Team Debono, who wants to go in first? We want to listen to 5 of your questions. Any 5 questions pertaining to what you heard today?
What, sir?
5 questions. 5 best questions. You can raise them here. It's a tiebreaker. Team Debono and Team Socrates, 5 best questions which you've thought through today during this program.
It need not be specified to their specific to their pitches.
No. Anything pertaining to the discussion today. Yeah. Okay, I'll do one thing. We have 60 seconds. You can ask as many as you can. Yeah. Both the teams can go in like just like rapid fire. Yeah.
Do you think that always learning something from one domain will be always useful in another domain? And if they are not, how do you make sure that they are?
Okay, thank you, Karthik. One question from Team Debono. Yeah. Who wants to go in next? We'll listen to only 5 questions overall. Who wants to go in next? Yeah, Satya again from Team Debono. Yeah, go ahead.
If you're implementing a process, then how do you analyze it and how do you try to make that process better?
Okay.
I analyze it by checking for mistakes.
Okay. Yeah, but we only ask questions in this round. Yeah. 2 questions from Team Debono. Yeah.
Won't you make mistakes when you're processing from one domain to another? The process used in one domain to another, the learning used in one domain to another. Okay. How do you make sure that you're not making any mistakes?
Okay, Team Debono strikes 3rd time. Yeah.
I think.
Why would you?
Yeah, Chintya.
Sorry.
Why would you try to make the rules more difficult? Rather than easy rules, why would you make them more difficult?
Okay, thank you, Achintya, for the question. 4th question. Yeah, Ms. Rekha, please go ahead.
Do you think this learning, I mean, whatever learning process you have, do you think that focusing or contemplation has more place than, before you start the practice? First, you have to research, focus, and contemplation. These things, do they have any important place before you start your practice?
Okay.
How do you make sure that you're...
Karthik, Palash went in first.
Yeah.
How do you improve the efficiency of the trial and error method that you use?
Done. So we request the jurors to send your scores in chat for both the teams on a scale of 10. Umang, could you please rename the participants? Achintya, so that it's easy to identify.
Sure.
How do you want us to share the scores on a chat to you or to
public chat should be good enough if it's okay. Otherwise you can send it to me as well.
Sure.
Umang, you can copy paste the scores to the Google sheet in a separate sheet.
Sir, I think you gave Miss Rekha a wrong name. You give my name to her.
Umang, yeah.
Maybe Miss Rekha is happy to have your name, Achintya.
Yeah, sure. That's...
Yeah, I hope it's not a tiebreaker again.
Varun, you have a coin?
Ravi is engaged in a lot of deep thought.
No, I have sent it to Umang.
Oh, Umang, can you give me Ravi's scores, please? Umang, can you quickly send it, please?
Should I paste?
Yeah. It's a tiebreak.
Again a tie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so this time we listen to two interesting answers from both the teams. Who's going first with your answer? Any interesting answer to any of the questions which were raised so far?
Just a request there. This any answer might be a little difficult because you don't even know which question you're answering. Would it make sense if you or one of the jurors asked a question and either of the
For
teams
both
could
the
answer?
teams. I think a common question and both teams answer it might help.
Okay, so then we'll do one thing. So the question for all of you is the method of learning to learn which you discovered today during the program. The method to learn which you discovered today during the discussion.
I would say meta learning.
Sir, one way is asking questions.
Okay. What is this meta learning, Karthik?
So I've learned you take in bunch of methods, you put in so you see, you experiment. So I would specifically in this case I would take experimenting. So I would experiment with different kinds of learning methods to learn.
So it can be learning through observation and experience more than following the previous rules or something like that. Observation, experience, and then you learn from that instead of keeping following all those whatever is done before by others.
Sir, even
Yeah, Cynthia. Yeah, Cynthia.
from them.
Sorry? Can you go over that again, Cynthia?
Observing other people do and learn from them.
Okay. Yeah, Satya.
Research and analysis, along with do not follow rules.
Along with, sorry?
Do not follow rules.
Do not follow rules. Okay. Okay. So now we request the jurors to score both the responses again on a scale of 10, and I hope it's not a tiebreaker again. Okay. Do we have a tiebreaker again? De Bono is on 17, 24, 32. 17, 24, 32. Socrates is on 14, 21, 27. Yeah. So I think De Bono is ahead. So we'll be having Team De Bono and Team Polya for one final round. It'll only be the jury round this time around. So we'll be starting with Team Polya. So Team Polya, you can go over your presentation again, just summarize it in 30 seconds so the jury can ask you some questions.
Okay, our pitch is about self-learning and how we can change it every time we see new ways to learn, and that self-learning is not dependent on others and helps us relate them to our own experiences. It also helps us make strategies to solve different problems, and when we get bigger problems, it's easier to break them down into smaller ones so that it's easier to solve, and practicing is also very good for helping us become faster and better to achieve our goals. And without practice, that we cannot improve ourselves. And then the Socratic method of learning uses critical thinking to see other perspectives and then ask ourselves questions to learn from them.
Okay. Thank you, Team Polya. We request the jurors in case you have some questions to ask them.
Bharan, this is Vishwanathan here. Quick question. What has been your experience in trying this, and where have you struggled in using self-learning?
So I've used self-learning to solve many types of Rubik's cubes. Right now I know how to solve 6 types, and some of the struggles I had was sometimes I wasn't able to find out how to solve it, or the Rubik's cubes broke. So I have right now all my Rubik's cube.
Thank you.
I'd like to go. So Arun, one thing you're talking about is self-learning, but you also mentioned about finding new ways and improving on them. Now, what if these ways came from you seeing somebody else do it better than you? Would you then say that's not self-learning because you ended up learning from someone else?
I think it is self-learning because we're taking other people's ideas and applying it to ourselves, and in our own way. We're not exactly copying it, and we're trying to find better ways, because there'll always be many ways to learn a certain thing. So you could create one way, then find that someone else can do a better way, and then copy that way and improve it.
I have a question. In the process of self-learning, there is a chance that you may pick up you could pick up some wrong habits or some mistaken notions, or have your assumptions slightly wrong, but not totally wrong for it to be too noticeable, and these errors could persist. Would you say that that is one of the pitfalls that one must be careful to avoid on the road to self-learning? Just a thought. I mean, what's your reaction on that?
Yes, it has to be observed through awareness. Otherwise, it will not improve the next level thinking. If we stuck up there, then it will be the new learning it has happened.
And from my side, like, how do you regulate connotations, or basically some methods, versus creating something of your own, some framework of your own? Yeah. How do you choose between both when you say self-learning?
First of all, I will compare with my experiences. If I get this new framework, I will compare with my own framework. Then then I will decide that what are the resources and what are the method they are using in the both sides, me and the new thing. Then I will choose that.
Thank you, Team Polya. We request the jurors to score this. You can move to the jury room so we could help you with the scoring process. And Team Dibono, you can be prepared for a quick 30-second presentation after this. That will be the one final round of today's.
Are we comparing the two teams here, Tarun, or what's the format? Or is
if you can move to the jury room, we'll help you in the jury room breakout.
Okay.
Yes. And by that time, anyone from Team Polia, from Team Debono, from Team Socrates, or from Team Plato, would you like to reflect on the entire session, on the entire last 1 hour or the 1.5 hours? You'd like to reflect and go ahead? Anybody? Yes, Aaron.
I learned about some of the disadvantages of self-learning and why sometimes it could create problems that could make it harder for you to learn and eventually get dismotivated and give up. I also learned that sometimes you need other people's help when you're learning, even if you're trying to self-learn.
Interesting.
I have insight while asking the jury questions regarding the questions. It is very helpful to go into the another time and to go into the what are the questions they are asking. Go into the deep. You have to go to the deep one. That's why I have to observe these questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vajra Prasad. Yes, Avir, you can go ahead.
So what I observed was about like there was a lot of discussion between like following others' rules and kind of going on your own path. So I learned that we need to create a balance between both and ensure that like let's say we are following our own path, so ensure that we are not kind of distracted to the other route, or we are creating a balance between both the routes to have a healthy learning.
Yes, Ms. Rekha, you can go ahead. Yes.
Actually, I have gone through many learning processes, but we didn't realize that what learning process or what process it was, or we didn't analyze it in such a way. Now, when this question came, your learning process, what learning process is, then we try to analyze, and by listening to other members and their pitch, we can just connect with, okay, this is what I did for that. So I could connect that for this. Oh, I had done something in that criteria of learning. And then I could get more insights to change my process. Like when it's self-learning, when it comes to self-learning or learning with trial and error sessions, all trial and error sessions. Okay, this is what happened when I learned that. Or when I was trying to write my write-up, all these things come into my mind. But now I feel when I hear the pictures of others, yeah, all these, some of the way we have done in different process of learning, but we didn't take it as a process. But now I know the importance of process and more than the outcome. That is what I.
Yes, I'm glad you recognize this, Rekha. And almost after every Socratic dialogue, the kids come and tell us that we made up answers along the way.
Yeah, that's it. We try to connect many things while hearing what they say about the learning process. While first, when we were asked to write the write-up, we couldn't do that. Just one or two came into our mind. But as we entered the process, it was itself a learning process, I would say.
The process itself is a learning process.
Learning process.
Which is what I think Karthik was calling meta.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So yeah, Team Bigono, are you ready with your 30-second pitch? Yeah, the time starts now. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna describe what method we use to learn physics. So we used trial and error and observing. We would observe how other people played, and depending upon that, we would base our own style. I would use trial and error to try different shots and play them in different ways, which would help me for developing new shots for different circumstances. If I was given the chance to learn cricket now, I would go with the same plan, but this time I would also evolve my shots. Along with that, I would use design thinking to choose my shots and also first principles reasoning to understand my shots better and play them in different circumstances.
Yeah. Thank you, Satya. one of the jurors.
Yeah, I have a very, it's a question touched upon, so I'll just repeat it. I think in trial and error, suppose a few trials into it, you are faced with the analysis that it's going to take a huge number of trials to improve. Then what would you do? Would you change your method of learning?
It depends upon the situation. If it's a very integral shot that like you need to know, for example, defense or drive, then even if it takes that many trials, you still have to do it if you want to play properly. But if it's some other shot, then you might change the method you learn to learn it in a faster way, or you may completely change the shot itself.
Yeah, the word itself says the trial and error. So error, whenever error comes in, we change the pitch, we change the method of attempt. So that's how we get a better result.
Otherwise, we could also bring in more people to get more perspectives. So you start looking at the problem and try approaching it in a different way.
I have 3 questions. Can I go with them one after the other?
Mr. Anand, you can ask one question, get a response, and then we'll move to the next question.
So where is design thinking applicable in whatever you said?
We would use design thinking. So, for example, if we stumble upon a problem while trying to learn something, then we would use design thinking to understand what our problem is and ideate of possible solutions, and we would try to implement it so we fix that problem.
Sure. So, see, identifying a problem and ideating are just 2 steps in the entire design thinking, right? Just those 2 don't make it design thinking. So that's what I was trying to understand. So if you take a concrete example of a shot, right, because you're talking largely about batting, what is the ideation that you're going to be doing there? And so that's what I was grappling with, and I wasn't able to understand.
So Satya, I mean, by design thinking, are you just referring to ideating and implementing, or?
It is mostly that.
But can I go to the second? Yeah, it's much fast, right? That's why.
Design thinking has those 8, 9 different steps, right?
Yes. Okay, then I would change by wording, not design thinking, these 2 parts of design thinking.
Got it. The other thing that you used which is first principles. What, according to you, in batting, are the first principles?
First, you have to have a good stance. You have to learn how to balance yourself. Then you have to learn how to swing the bat and time the ball properly. And yeah, you also have to learn how to observe how the bowler is bowling, and depending upon that, you have to choose a shot to play.
Okay. Which brings me to my last question. You mentioned observing. Hand-eye coordination is not something people learn from observing. How do you intend learning that in trial and error?
It's not just observing. You could, well, practice is an important thing. And what you could do is you could face a few balls. You could use the trial and error method on when you try to swing the bat, maybe after just the ball pitches, or maybe before the ball pitches, or maybe you play it when the bowler bowls the ball. So you can try out different timings, and you can observe and also practice it.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a different perspective here. All that you talked about sounded like nice to look at, listing out options, practicing various options. But when you're standing there at the pitch, the bowler is bowling. You may not have tried all the bowlers. The new team is going to have new bowlers, is going to do new tricks. So how do you see your approach helping you in cracking the right shot?
Um, okay, you cannot face all the bowlers in the world in your practice nets. I do agree with that. So one thing you have to learn is adopting. You have to adopt to the weather conditions, the pitch, and the bowler. You cannot understand each and every single bowler in the world, but you can understand the main categories and styles of bowlers. And you can maybe develop a strategy to play, for example, a leg spinner's bowling. Then you can develop a strategy on how do you play a leg spinner. You can develop strategies and practice against different classes, but not each and every single person. And that would help you.
And I mean, how do you go with intuition? Like, I mean, what do you think about intuition? By intuition, I mean, when you see something, when to test it with trial and error, or when to get confidence that you have already a decision in place. How do you, yeah.
I was also having a question about that and I'm still trying to figure out the answer of when do you figure out that when you're using trying to learn something, when do you use that thing with trial and error? So that was a question that is a question that I'm still having.
Yeah, you do have that question, but imagine you are playing the last ball of the World Cup where you have to hit like your 4 counts.
Okay, so intuition is also important. Sometimes you have to follow what your intuition says. You can't just follow what you practice, and adopting also comes in there. Yes.
The perfect mix of intuition and what you what you implementation of what you learned. I think it will the practicing of that will also help in achieving the goal here.
To answer this question, are you using your intuition or what you practice?
I'm using my intuition and some past discussions from some past classes.
Yes, mostly intuition.
Karthik is like the voice from the sky, given the background of these cartoons. There's no Karthik on the screen.
Yeah, so this concludes the last round. We request the jurors to score, and we'd love to listen to your thoughts from the day. So while the jurors are scoring, participants, any reflections? Maybe we'll have time for one quick reflection before the jurors score. Yeah, I believe all the jurors are done scoring. We'd love to listen to the thoughts of the jurors.
Yeah, I'll go first. It's my first time here. I'm simply blown away by all the 4 teams. They were very good. I'm not a fan of this format, Tarun. I'll be very honest with you. It gives too little time to the teams to build their case initially. And then the question sessions were really fun, but I think maybe if they had a little bit more time to build their case, we could have had a more fun thing. That's my take on the format. But I think the 4 teams, they did so well. And I think towards the end of it, when we had the jury round where we were trying to separate Polya and Debono, that was very tough for me. I think I had to fight to not give Debono a perfect score, and Polya in the jury round, I was confused, because I thought it would be a face-off, and we were sticking to the rubric, which was independent. I think independently, initially, I gave both of them a perfect. I think Polya a 9 and Debono a perfect, and then I scaled it down to a 9. And whatever, it was very tough, is what I'm trying to say.
So, Artha, I think if we can put the format and all of that aside, in general, I mean, thoughts of.
Sure. So my thoughts, I think I really enjoyed the questions part of it more than the answers part of it. Some of the answers were very insightful, but I think the questions were quite deep, some of them. One of the answers that really stood out for me today was, I think it was Karthik, when he, correct me if I'm wrong, Karthik, where you talked about you make the rules harder for yourself when you're playing a game or learning.
Satya.
Yeah, Satya. That was very insight. That was a pretty deep takeaway for me today. Yeah, and I think I loved it because over my years I found that that's something that nature does. So yeah, I mean there are many such moments, but this one stood out. So I think for that one, personally from my side, Satya, you get some kudos, and maybe I would love to hear more on that from you later.
I like the way people were structuring their presentation. So that itself, I think, is good effort. And call me biased, but I think what Achintya brought to the table is something that I fear is getting lost with age, right? And I mean, even though Satya and Karthik are not that old, I still feel it's gone. So, like, Achintya just brought simplicity to his answer. It was to the point with immense clarity, and there wasn't an attempt to sound wise, right? It was very to the point. Okay, here are my chess pieces. You tell me what's a backup. This is how I construct a backup. Very to the point, right? And there wasn't an attempt to sound wise or to use jargon or any of that stuff. Which I hope, Achintya, you retain that forever, because when you can cut all the fluff off and still make your point, you've earned your stars, and I think that's excellent. I think again, the second word Orko said. I think Satya and Karthik, in turn, they brought in a lot of interesting perspective. They, for instance, when they were asked a question, they could have sort of stuck to an answer which is expected or something, but they brought in a very nice perspective. So I think where they lose out on simplicity and clarity, I think they definitely gain on the range of perspective that they were bringing to the table. And Sanchi, Aryan, Aryan, all of you, right? I really enjoyed what you're presenting. The energy level was just fantastic. So, I think that coupled with this sort of deep thought is just good. It's great.
From my end, to just quickly, all four teams are very special in their way. So obviously, the team Di Bono, they are, both batsmen playing. Both of them were doing a great job actually. In fact, I find their elegance very high. That way, where the second team, Socrates, this Ajinkya, his simplicity, and from point one, when I started, I was thinking, let me not have a bias of favoring the young child, and let me critically evaluate, and I have been. But towards the last round, for the first time, he gave a succinct answer, which was really good, where I had to score him again for that. Yeah, and after that, next team Plateau, so the one Plateau, yeah, Plateau would have done really well. Their elegance was really good, but while the content was delivered, they would have prepared for some more long time. Otherwise, they are also really good on the elegance and delivery part. While they were preparing, they could have prepared more. And yeah, obviously, Polia, they are very clear and could have been more strong in terms of expression. Content is really good. Their answers are really good. Could have been more elegant and strong. Yeah.
Thank you, Ravi.
If I may take a shot. See, one thing I found interesting was I struggled to mark anybody down on delivery this time. That was a challenge I had. I couldn't, because everybody got their point across all teams. That's something which I found very good. That's the first piece. The second was the ability to wing it. As they went along, they created answers, but to also temper it with honesty. Say, I haven't thought about it. This is not it. And one piece which was talked about earlier, this whole thing about cut the jargon. I think somewhere in the process, maybe the fact of us bringing in multiple methodologies and words is also trapping them to use those words. To say design thinking, and then you have to break it down to say not the 8 steps, but the 2 steps. The honesty existed to go back and say, I'm talking only about those 2. But the fact of parking that word in our head, I think we've started doing what management schools do, which put lots of jargon in their head so that you can sound intelligent. Okay, I think that's what we need to possibly look at to say, how do we not have a need to sound intelligent? I have a different view from Marka in terms of time. I think this short model puts everybody on the mat. You got to be quick, you got to be thinking, you can't sort of take too much time, which is nice. Unfortunately, we have a scoring method which kind of shows one did not win, but everybody did a tremendous job, as always.
Thank you, everyone. It was a lovely discussion, and I'm sure all of us now have a much better bag of tricks when it comes to learning, or much wider range of approaches to learning today. We'd like to thank all the participants, especially the parents, for coming forward and participating. I think that brought a completely different flavor to the dialogue when we have parents coming in, and we hope to continue this format going forward. And I think it was very nice for me, the moment was when Ms. Rekha was sharing her reflection that she now realizes why process is more important than the outcome, and she's actually got a first-hand experience of process of learning here. So I think if we can do this activity with more and more parents, I think we can really transform the thought process of education in this country and get more and more students and parents to see process-oriented approaches to learning. On that note, I'd like to thank all of you. I'd like to thank all the jurors for joining us. It was a wonderful discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. It was wonderful.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And the kids really